Hey parents, my name is Zach. I am the youth pastor here at Mission Viejo Christian Church. I just wanted to make this video and spend a few minutes talking to you guys and let you guys know as parents kind of what's happening here in our ministry, let you know a little bit about my story and who I am, what's really happening every time you drop your kids off here on a Wednesday night, let you know a bit about our vision, about where we're going in our student ministry, and most importantly, just let you know about some ways that we really want to partner together with you guys in ministry. So if you'll take a few minutes, I hope you'll watch this video. I've been serving in youth ministry for about 6 years now. I've been married for about 3 years to my awesome wife, Angelina. I got 2 twins right now named Levi and Aaliyah, and they're about 1.5 years old. But pretty much my whole life, I grew up a church kid. My dad's a pastor. He was a youth pastor until I was about 5th grade. He's still a pastor. He's a pastor at Landmark Church over in Diamond Bar. And I got baptized when I was 10 years old, and it was a decision. I knew what I was making. I knew Jesus was the winning team, and I knew he's who I wanted to follow. And so I got baptized at 10 years old. And so pretty much what I'm trying to say is my whole life, I've kind of grown up a church kid. And the reason I share that with you guys is because I know a lot of the students here at this youth group, maybe your kids too, have kind of grown up that way. They've kind of grown up here in church. They've grown up in some kind of Christian household. And so for me being here, I understand what that growing up like that is like. I understand what life is like to grow up as a church kid. But I want to share this with you guys right now, because what I want to share with you next is really why my heart is so passionate about student ministry, why I have such a heart to want to serve here. You know, there's kind of a cliche stigma about pastors' kids. You know, they can either go one way or the other way when they're young. They either can be like really on fire for Jesus, or you kind of know pastors' kids sometimes as a little bit more of the rebellious kids. And so, long story short, my teenage years were tough. I mean, just think about when you were a teenager. Those were some difficult years for a lot of us. And so for me as a teenager, man, those years just almost took everything from me. Long story short, I just kind of got swept into the peer pressures that all teenagers face. And for me, I just wasn't really like solid in my identity in Christ, and, you know, just dealing with insecurities and a lot of other issues. I just kind of got pulled and I got swept completely far away from God. I started getting into partying, and I started getting into drug use and alcohol use and just all that stuff. My relationship with my parents just had gotten so far back, because all through my years of high school, I was kind of making these bad choices. So you can understand from their perspective, they were an emotional mess trying to figure out how to handle me. And my life had kind of just spiraled completely out of control. And so quickly I went from this kid who was baptized at 10 years old to now moving away, just being totally spiraled, kind of living in just like this sinful underworld. And I share that with you guys. At the same time, yes, I grew up in church, but because of just so many just things that teenagers are faced with, I got pulled away, and I just got to really, unfortunately, experience what that underworld of just the depression, the hopelessness, the depravity that chasing the pleasure of this world takes you to. You know, there's a guy named Andy Stanley. He's a pastor of a church, and he says something really profound, I think, and I want to share that with you guys. He says, you know, if you really want to know where God has placed purpose in your life, if you really want to know where God has called you to, he says you got to answer this one question. When you look around at the world, what is it that breaks your heart the most? And so for me, when I answer that question, it's so obvious. You know, like so many kids who grew up in church, I believed a lie that just because I grew up in church, that meant that I didn't have any cool testimony story. I thought because I grew up in church, that meant I didn't even have a testimony. And it breaks my heart to hear kids all the time who say that, kids who started going to church in middle school, high school, kids who have grown up in church say, man, I don't have a cool testimony story. So what breaks my heart is when I see good kids who are growing up in church begin to get lured away just to all the temptations that are out there in this world. You know, it breaks my heart to see so many teenagers who are going through tough times like I was when I was a teenager, just being broken and just struggling with depression and hopelessness and just all those struggles that the enemy attacks young teenagers with. And so that's really where a lot of my heart comes from in serving in ministry. And so for me, when it came to the time for me to decide to want to follow Jesus, I remember let me just give this whole following Jesus thing just 100% and just like see what happens. And for me, when I did that, when I gave Jesus everything I have, I got to actually experience what it's like to know the love of God. And I was like, wow, I was like, this is what I was searching for my whole entire life. I was like, this is what I got to tell people about. And so that is my heart to want to have teenagers understand that it's not until you give Jesus everything you have. It's not your parents' decision. It's not your friend's decision. It's when you you make that decision on your own to give Jesus everything you have, 100% of your heart, can you begin to experience what it's like to know God? And when you really know the love of God, man, that stuff sets you on fire and you're wanting to tell your friends everything about that. And so that's really kind of like what I love about being part of this church is like, that's my heart for students, and that's this church's heart. That is our ministry's heart for students, and that's what we want to see start happening in students' lives. So I want to quickly walk you through this. If you'll give me another minute, I want to kind of let you know like what's happening here on a Wednesday night when your middle schooler or your high schooler comes here on a Wednesday. Kind of with that understanding, I want to just share with you guys real quick kind of what our approach is to what's happening on Wednesdays. What's really happening when you drop your kids off here or when they come here on a Wednesday night to our student ministries. So we are a ministry of Mission Viejo Christian Church, which means we are aligned with our church's mission and vision. And so if you didn't know, our vision of our church is we are a church that wants to see real love on mission, which means we want to see a church that where real discipleship happens, where love is on display, and where lives are released on mission for Christ. And our church's mission is to be reaching people with the good news of Jesus to make disciples. And so the way we kind of translate that to what that looks like in student ministry is really our focus of everything we do, every event we do, every event, everything we do on a Wednesday night all comes down to having students be disciples. Our focus is discipleship. And we kind of think the mark of what that looks like for a student to be a disciple is a student who accepts the gospel of Jesus, lives it out with their life, and is actively seeking to tell others. And so everything we do is about that. We want to see students become disciples. And the way we think we can accomplish that is by creating a culture of family. So our focus is discipleship. Our focus is family. We really believe when a student can feel like they're accepted as part of a family, whether they're here as a middle schooler or as a high schooler, we really think when you can feel like, hey, this is my family, that's going to totally open them up to be more welcoming, to embrace the gospel of Jesus. So our focus is discipleship, our culture is family. And so kind of our strategy in accomplishing that is this, is we want every student to feel like they are known, valued, and connected. We want every student, no matter who they are, when they walk into our campus, when they walk into our doors, when they come on a Wednesday or they're hanging out with us on a Sunday, we want them to feel like they are known by a caring adult life group leader. We want them to feel like they have value, to know they are valued and loved. We want them to be connected to the church so they can impact their schools, impact their communities, and really impact the world for Jesus. And so here's how we do this. We are two separate ministries. We might have heard this lingo thrown around a little bit. Mission student ministries. Really, we're kind of moving away from that. And we're really kind of pretty much two separate ministries. We are JHM, which is our junior high student ministry, and we are HSM, which is our high school student ministry. JHM being 6th through 8th grade, high school being 9th through 12th grade. And the reason we really want to start moving in that direction, keeping them two separate ministries, is we understand that like middle schoolers and high schoolers, they're going through two completely different phases of life. The problems that middle schoolers are going through are way different than what high schoolers are going through. And if we really want them to come here on a Wednesday and to feel like they are part of a family, it makes way more sense for them to be around peers who are going through the same phase of life as them. And so right now, what we're doing, obviously, because of the restrictions and everything going on in our world right now, for convenience sake, we are meeting all together. JHM and HSM are meeting together as one group on Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 8:30 outside. But really, what we want to start doing, as soon as restrictions loosen up a little bit, and as soon as we feel comfortable making the wise choice, we want to start moving our students inside as quickly as possible. And really, kind of our long-term vision, what we want to start doing is we want HSM and JHM to be meeting on the same night, but completely separate. Which means on Wednesday night, what we want to see happen is our HSM high school group to be meeting on the upper landing, and our JHM middle school group to be meeting on the lower landing, which means they're going to be two complete separate ministries meeting at the same time, but with their own worship, their own messages, their own life group leaders, their own leaders, everything happening as two separate ministries meeting on the same time. And like I said earlier, we just think that would be the best move moving forward. So what our leadership team is kind of doing right now is we're working to essentially double ourselves so we can see that happen. And so we don't have like a time frame on when that's going to happen, but we're going to keep you guys as parents updated all along the way of kind of any change that starts happening. But I wanted to just let you know a little bit about that. That's kind of what is happening every time you drop your student here off on a Wednesday night. That's what we're about. That's what we want to see happen. That's what our leaders are seeing happen. And so in a snapshot, that is who we are as a student ministry. Let's take a minute here and just kind of address you guys as parents, because we understand, man, this year has been crazy. It's been quite a year, and we talk a lot about how much this has been affecting students, but we're fully aware that this has been an incredibly hard year for you guys as parents. I I mean, just think, I mean, we all know, I mean, your schedules have had to change. You've been having to work with long distance learning with many of your kids. I mean, their schedules have changed. You have kids at home all the time. Maybe your work has changed. Essentially, your whole life has had to change. And so we know that, you know that, and I really want you guys just to know this right now. That yes, our ministry is here completely for your kids, but just as much as we're here for your students, I want you guys to know that our ministry is also here for your guys' family. And so right now I'm going to put my number and my email on the screen. I just want you guys to know that you guys have full access to me. You have full access to our ministry. We want to be completely here for you guys. And so just know you have full access to me, whether you need to let me know about, you know, your family needing some prayer. Maybe you want to kind of let me know some of the stuff your teenagers are going through, maybe some questions they were asking, some problems they were dealing with, some struggles they're having, whatever it is, you can totally know you can reach out to me and talk to me about that stuff. And really what that does is that really kind of helps us partner together, because, you know, we are really on the same team here. We know you want to see them come to Jesus. We want to see them fully come to Jesus. And so the more we can kind of work together on this, we can know as a ministry where we can be guiding them when they're here. And I want to say this too right now. Our leaders talk about this a lot, and this is really important. We as a ministry, our leaders, everyone here, we fully acknowledge this, and we want you guys to acknowledge this as well. Is that at the end of the day, as much as we love your kids, there's really no one who has more influence over your kids than you. You guys by far have the biggest influence over your teenager's life. And like I said, we want to know how we can partner together in this, because we know you want to see this, we want to see this, we both want to see them become disciples of Jesus, having their heart and their life transformed by Jesus. And so I want to just encourage you with this right now, that you guys are doing a far better job at parenting your kids than your kids will ever allow you to feel. You know, even for me, when I kind of wandered, you know, made my bad choice and kind of wandered away from God, you know, my parents were, you know, they were still good examples of what it looked like to follow Jesus. And I kind of know there's like this big tendency right now to not want to push your kids too much for fear, like not wanting to make them go to church or just push Jesus on them too much because they might snap and kind of rebel against that. And there's definitely, you know, some truth to that, but I wanted to share this with you guys. You know, for me, when I was growing up, you know, my parents, we kind of just had there was just this rule in my household: as long as I was dependent on them for a phone, for a car, for a house, you know, our family went to church. It's just what happened. And no doubt, when I was in high school or kind of around that age, my parents were giving me the choice: hey, do you want to go to church? Probably like 99 out of 100 times I would have said no, I didn't want to go. But just because I didn't want to get grounded, I wanted to keep my car, I didn't want to lose my phone, I kind of just went along with it. And even though when I was there at youth group or when I was there on a Sunday at church and I didn't really want to be there, I was still hearing gospel truth spoken to me every single week. And so when it came time for me to realize that, hey, this world is horrible, maybe I should see if there's some hope in actually following Jesus, when I decided I wanted to actually do that, man, because I'd just grown up in church, because I've been around church my whole entire life, I knew exactly what it meant to repent. I knew exactly what it meant to really fully give my heart to Jesus, and I was able to do that. So I want to just say this to you guys: never ever underestimate the influence, the things you say and the things you do, of how much it's actually influencing your kids. It's influencing them way more than they even realize. So don't be afraid to, you know, maybe push them a little bit to come to church, because as you guys know, if you gave your kids a choice to go to school, you know, probably more than not, they would say they probably wouldn't want to go to school. And we all know how much that would mess up their life if they don't go to school. And so what we're doing here on a Wednesday in our youth group is we're not just offering hope in this life, we're really offering eternal hope. Right? God has entrusted you to raise your kids. And as you guys know, you can't force them to love Jesus, but you can at least know that you did everything on your part to raise them to know Jesus. And so we're partnering with you in this. We're going to do our part. We're trying to make this place as fun and as awesome as we can on a Wednesday, so that you're not making them go. They actually want to go. And so that's what we're trying to do. And we're excited about this. There's so many awesome things happening here on the student ministry. And we know life is just crazy right now. And if there's ever been a time where teenagers really need to know where it is to look for hope, it's right now. And so we think if we can partner together in this, man, some really good things are happening. So I want to just say, if you can be praying for our church, be praying for our student ministry, be praying for our pastors, be praying for your friends and your neighbors who got teenagers. Maybe you can start talking to them and invite them to this stuff, to make sure you don't miss adding me to our parent email list. You can get on that parent email list, because I'll keep you guys updated with everything that's going on in our student ministry. And so I just want to encourage you guys with that. I'm so excited about what's happening here. God is doing some amazing things happening here. The students that are part of this youth group are so awesome, and we can't wait to just continue to see where God has taken us here in 2021. So I love you guys. Look forward to talking to you later.